Hey friends, welcome back to my garden. We're kicking off this day with a soil sale that was at Lowe's. They were having a 5 for 10 sale on 1 cubic foot bags of the Stay Green soil. This is good enough for topping off or refreshing your garden beds. I wouldn't suggest starting your seeds in this, but I used this last year and I had a pretty good success rate with it. I went ahead and got my husband to just chuck all of these bags over the fence for me, and I'm moving on to my cabbages and my bok choy. Something has been nibbling on my plants, and the pattern on the leaves suggests to me that it is probably slugs or snails. And even though I would just much rather not put anything on the garden, you can see that they're really starting to do some damage, and I don't want to let that pile up. So I'm going to use some slug magic, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of it in the bed. Whatever it is that's chewing on my plants doesn't seem to like the kale too much. But I'd like to be able to salvage these plants. I didn't plant a ton of them, and I have plans for these Napa cabbages when they're finished to make them into some kimchi, so I really don't want them to be chewed completely full of holes. So, slug magic it is. I picked up this raised garden bed off Amazon. It was about $30, and I wasn't sure how good it was going to be, but it took me about 20 minutes with my hubby's help to put it together, and it turned out really nice, actually. So, since I had his help, I went ahead and I rearranged my garden just to try to make the most of the space that I have here. My garden space is 20 by 25, which is pretty big, but I thought, I could get more in if I put the beds in long ways. I'll work on filling up this center bed, the new bed, later. The soil sale is going on at Lowe's for about another week or so, so I'll probably hit that up again. So you see that they have some of these felt bags. These, I just left the soil in them last year. And all I'm going to do here is with some of these bags of the Stay Green, I'm going to top them off. And I actually end up going around the garden and topping up all the rest of the beds and getting them ready to plant in. I just left the leaves and the little sticks and the remnants, the root systems from whatever I had planted in these pots last year. And I'm just topping it off with some fresh soil. These bags are really good if you are trying to garden on a budget. My one and only suggestion to you is if you're planting something in it that has really deep roots like a tomato, do not move it. Last year I had some Super Sweet 100 cherry tomatoes planted in these, and on a whim I just decided, well, I'm going to rearrange some things. And the taproot had gone all the way down through the bottom of the pot and grown through the plastic, and I actually ended up breaking the taproot on one of them and it died. So get them where you want them, don't move them. Once I get this bed all topped up, the only thing I'm actually planting on this day is some zucchini. Um, I didn't have much luck with zucchini last year. The squash bugs are like terrible here. I was out there every day picking off eggs, squishing the adults, and it was just like a never-ending battle. So I want to get as early a start as I can, and hopefully I'll beat the bugs and actually get some zucchinis. In a second, you're going to see where I had left some sunflower um, stems. In the wintertime, wild bees like to use the hollow stems to kind of overwinter. So I thought, well, I would just leave those behind for them all winter. And now is a good time. Everybody's already woke up. I can go ahead and clean this up. And all I did was just snap those off and lay them down in the empty cells and just top it off with soil. Here are those Black Beauty zucchinis I'm planting. I'm planting 2 per cell, getting 6 in the ground here. If it looks like they're crowding each other out, I'll either pull one up and move it to a different cell, or I'll just pull it up and be done with it and just have 1 per cell. These seeds are a couple years old, and I just want to make sure that I actually get something. So 6 zucchini plants seems like it's probably a lot, and it is, but I tend to share a lot of what comes out of my garden with my neighbors and my friends. I'm currently working on a budget-friendly trellising system. So what I've done is just with some large gauge wire, I've run it between some short T-posts in my flower beds. Last year I tried to use bird netting and it just collapsed under the weight of my cucumbers. So I'm going to do this on the tomato side and the cucumber side. And I'm just going to zip tie those on. And then next year maybe I'll be able to get some cattle panels. Here is some sugar snap peas and my lettuces that are all coming up really good. They're much easier to see when I've watered, but I watered after I got done filming. I should have watered before so you could see how nice everything looks in their little pots. I planted a lot of sugar snap peas, so I'm really hopeful that in true Western Kentucky fashion, we don't go from mid 70s to upper 90s, as soon as you bat your eye. We don't really get a lot of, spring weather here, so fingers crossed that I actually get to get some lettuce and some sugar snap peas this year. I took advantage of having some extra hands for helping on this day, and I got out some of my garden decorations. These are really special to me. These hanging baskets, these belong to my father, and when he passed away, my mother knew how much I loved them, so she gave them to me. And I have one on each corner of my garden. They're just this pretty little heart shape that hangs, and you can hang a bird feeder from the shepherd's hook. So I'll put some kind of really pretty flowers in these at each corner of my garden. I've been working on hardening off my plants, and boy howdy, the basil has just been loving it. I actually had to pinch the tops of these off. I wasn't going to, but they just started to get so tall and they're not ready to go out yet. Probably in the next video I'll be planting my herbs out. But I actually, a couple of days later, ended up pinching off the mammoth basil too because it was just crazy. It didn't go to waste though. I put it in dinner that night. While I was at Lowe's, they were having an herb sale. 3 for 10, I think it was. So I got 2 rosemaries, 2 oreganos, 2 dill plants, and I picked up a 6-pack of hot banana peppers because I didn't plant any of that this year. I don't know what I was thinking. I wanted to make some pickled banana pepper rings, and so now hopefully I'll be able to do that. Our conservation folks here in Kentucky were giving away some native trees, and I had mentioned it to my husband, and him and his glorious, beautiful, amazing self went down there bright and early in the morning and got me 2 pawpaw trees and 2 wild plum trees. I cannot even begin to tell you how excited I am about both of them, but mostly the pawpaw trees. Every place is sold out of them all the time, so I am really looking forward to having those here on the property. But as you can see, it is starting to look like a jungle in here. So, like I said, hopefully in the next vlog, we will be putting some things in the actual garden because I am running out of space. And we all know that as soon as I make some space on this table, I'm probably just going to plant something else. So, I guess that's just going to be a perpetual problem, probably for the beginning half of the summer at least. Even my tomatoes. Look at this. I keep pinching these blossoms off and they just keep coming back. So since I know that they'll be going out soon, I'm just going to leave them alone. I'm honestly, every day, more flowers. And I wanted to do just a quick check-in with my garlic. I saved the biggest bulbs from my garlic last year and I planted them in. This one right here, you see how big these are? The stalks of them? That's my homegrown garlic from last year. So I think we're on to something here, folks. I'm just going to have to start saving my own seed garlic. Onions are looking good, although it's getting kind of hard to tell what's a wild onion and what's an onion I planted, but I guess we'll know when they start to bulb up. They kind of look the same. That's all for this week's vlog, friends. Next week we'll be getting stuff in the ground. So until then, happy gardening.